Hello, this is Steve from MakCorp, and we're going to go through the ASX Mining weekly update for last week ending 7th of November 2024. For those of you that are new to MakCorp, we provide all the data for the ASX mining companies, including company details, market data, market trends, directors, shareholders, capital raises, projects, and financials. And today we'll be going through the project updates. As mentioned already for last week, MakCorp is value for investors, ASX mining companies, and also mining services companies. Particularly for the ASX mining companies, to do comparisons and merger and acquisitions. Comparison can be done on market cap, drilling, JORC, NPV studies, etc. And then you've got all the data for investors. So it allows you to do comparisons, research, analysis, trends, and reports. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to bring up last week's data. We can see overall there's 800 ASX mining companies with just over 4,500 projects. But now I'm going to bring up the date for last week. And we just type in date there. And then we want to find the date for the project activity between, and this is date by US, so it's month first. And we'll do 02, 25, 11, 08, 25, so that'll cover all of last week. That will now bring up all the results for the project updates for last week. There was 172 ASX mining companies with an update on 193 projects. We can see here there's a number of filters that we can also filter on. Should we just want to look at a particular commodity, we've got two commodity fields. We can just look at the normal just commodity or by priority commodity. Priority commodity is what the ASX mining company is focused on, as well as their project. We can break it down to project stages from acquisition through to production. So depending on what you're looking for, project locations, from continent, country, state, city, town, province, belt, and also project area region, which is something like the Pilbara, Eastern Goldfields, Lachlan Fold Belt, or the Gawler Craton or Mount Isa. And we'll go through those a little bit more as we go down. We can also look up grades by drilling, and that can be by grade or by intersect grade, and you'll see the difference as we scroll down. So let's have a look. We have all the commodities, or the top 10 commodities that were updated with projects last week, and also priority commodity. As we scroll down further, we have project stages. We can see predominantly it was exploration projects that were updated last week, and then a range of other advanced projects and also acquisitions. That also gives you an overview of what each project stage are meaning for it. Project activity, ranging from field work. Drilling completed is when assays are released on a drilling announcement campaign. Drilling current means they're drilling currently and assays are to be released. Acquisition, drilling commencing, production, permits. Permits can be environmental, mining, drilling, etc. MOUs or Memorandum of Understandings agreements, metallurgy, projects for sale, other types of agreements including native title, joint ventures, construction, projects and companies in court, and IPOs, so they could be IPOing on another exchange such as Canada or New York, etc. This gives us an overview of the different types of activity, much similar to the above, and a breakdown of it, the meaning of each activity, project locations by country and by region, as I mentioned earlier above. Predominantly, a lot of these are in Australia. Eastern Goldfields, Murchison is WA. Lachlan Fold is probably the longest region or belt in the world. It starts in Queensland, Australia, goes through New South Wales, Victoria, and right across to New Zealand. Pilbara is in WA, Gawler Creighton, South Australia, Mount Isa, Queensland, New England, New South Wales, Birmingham is West Africa, Far North Queensland is Queensland, Southern Cross is WA. There's other regions as well, but they're just the top 10 as far as project activity last week by region. This gives us a full breakdown of the by date. So we start on Friday, working backwards for the week. The ASX code, the company, the commodity, the date, the type of activity, the project name, current market cap as close of trade yesterday, the area region, and then an overview of the announcement. So we can scroll across there and see the full announcement. And then we come into drilling. So we have capture two types of drilling. We capture the best grade. So the best grade last week was code MTH with their silver at the Kakwalan project. And if there's no region, it means they don't mention a region or area in their announcement. Market cap, the grade of the silver, the intersect and the depth, and the grams per tonne or percentage per metre, and the overview again of the drilling results. So that's the first part of drilling that we capture. The second part that we capture, if we just scroll down a little bit further, is best intersect. So here we can see the best intersects for last week. It was code RML for gold, the release date, etc., and it was for 265 metres in length, 0.6 in grade, 1 metre depth, so quite shallow, and then the grams per tonne is 159 grams per tonne for that hit, and an overview. So we capture the grade and the best grade and best intersect, so you can get an idea of the potential size and consistency of the drilling and the potential resource. I'm not going to go through everything here today. The next is we're obviously only in last week for activity, so it just goes through activity by commodity, so gold, copper, silver, antimony, rare earths, tungsten, lithium, arsenic, molybdenum, and nickel are the main, or the top 10 by commodity for project activity last week. And lastly, MPVs. And if we scroll on there, we see just an overview of the MPV or its potential value, its current market cap, and capex. And that's an overview of the project activity for last week. Now what we'll do is we'll just drill down and have a little look at how we can drill down to either using these filters or any data below that we've already just looked at. But we'll start with, let's look at gold. So this shows that last week there were 106 ASX mining companies that updated a project with gold in it, and there was 117 projects in total. So as we scroll down here, we can look at by project stage or by region, project activity. So here we might just look at the drilling completed. So that way we'll compare all the gold assays for last week. And we'll just go back and have a look at the number. So there are 30 ASX mining codes updated last week with gold assays and 30 projects. So as we scroll down, and again, we can look by region as well and compare drilling results by region. And here we see the best or the top 20 gold hits by grade. This is a project activity. Get it right. And remembering we're just looking at drilling completed. And now we look at the actual grades. So we've got the top 20 gold hits. IDA had the best SA last week for gold at 71 grams per tonne at an intersect of 1 metre at 140 metres in depth. And then there's the overview, and that was in the Gawler Creighton. Lots of activity in the Gawler Creighton at the moment, including with 3 of our clients, Oroville, Barton Gold and Coda Minerals. And then if we scroll down further, we can see the top 20 by intersect. And we can see RML had the best intersect for gold last week at 265 metres in length, at 0.6 grams per tonne grade, and a shallow depth of 1 metre. So that just goes you to show how you can look at the project updates for last week in bulk and do lots of comparisons and filter and dissecting any which way you want. So I'm just going to get rid of those filters now and show you one other thing or 2 other things we can do by group. Remove gold and just give that a few seconds to go back to 800. Generally takes somewhere between 5 and 10 seconds. We are looking at ways to improve the speed here, and it also depends on your internet. So now if I want to bring up one of my groups, in particular, I might want to look at my clients. So I can type in MakCorp. Still refreshing. We're looking at 2 groups here. We're going to look at MakCorp. So I can see all my clients' project activity. We're defaulting to the last year, but we can go right back to the 1st of the 1st, 2019. But we default to a year. So that's just about loaded now. There's 10 ASX mining clients with MakCorp that have 50 projects, predominantly in gold, copper, silver, zinc, lead, uranium, rare earths, antimony, and arsenic. And as we scroll down, I can see all the project activity for the most recent. So here I can see Kairos are currently drilling at their Mount York project, and we usually have the announcements here and we can just click on and get a full detail of the announcement. But I've just hidden that field at the moment so we can see all the relevant and most important data. So we can see all the activity at any point in time by grouping. So I won't go down any further. You've seen the types of data that we've got. But now I'm going to head over to our company details. And here I've brought up another group. And this is for the Noosa event that starts tomorrow. And this excludes the oil and gas. So we've just got the ASX mining companies here. And this gives you a good overview of the 57 companies that are attending that conference. Now, the company details, looking at overviews and doing comparisons on companies, I sort of recommend somewhere around a dozen. 57's a lot because the screen looks busy. So once you've sort of done your research, you know, with a whole range of companies and got it down to around a dozen, you can then bring the group in here and do your comparisons as need be. Again, you've got a range of filters at the top. Now, this is the recent market data. So I've sorted by yearly percentage gain of the companies attending. We can see the companies here, including our client Kairos, that's up over 161% in 25. So the data we've got here is the ASX code, the company name, its priority commodity, current market cap at close of trade yesterday, its percentage gain for 2025, its latest share price as a close of trade yesterday, its lowest price, in the last 12 months, its highest price, and current bank balance as of the current quarter. We just get some visuals on share price and just the top 10. As I scroll, I can see all the dates and the top 10 price by price as far as changes in any day over the last 12 months. We get a good range there. Project activity. So this is the latest 50 by date, by ASX code, by company, commodity, project activity, name, market cap, area, region, and an overview of the announcement. So again, anywhere here, I can highlight, I can drill down further. So if which I'll do shortly, I'll just give you a quick overview. So you can see who's been having the best essays or best hits by commodity. So silver's the top 3, as we can see, and then gold, iron ore, etc. And that's the top 20. As I said, similar with the in the projects by grade, and then the top 20 by intersect, which who we got. ZNC has the best intersect of 350 meters, which was done on the 23rd of the 10th at their Red Mountain project. Top 20 by JORC, and that's by commodity. Again, we can hit on any commodity or any code and just look at one, any activity. And then we have the last 4 quarterlies. So again, we can drill down just and look at one company. We can sort by any field here. So we can see who's been spending the most on projects at any quarter. So at the moment, another good field here is this one. And this gives you a percentage of project spend versus staff admin. So the higher, the better. Never assume anything. Always look at the last 4 quarterlies, because that gives you a good overview of their consistency of spend. Because as you can see with code LKE, they've spent 15% on projects and close to 85% on staff admin. But there might be a good reason. They might be raising capital and it's not in the current quarter yet. They might be waiting for permits, licenses, all sorts of things, environmental. So never assume anything as to why project spend may be low in one quarter. Always look back at either 4 to 8 quarters and look at the consistency of the expenditure. And here's a nice thing with the CR, which is capital raise last date and CR amount. So if you're in the middle of a quarter, you can actually see if their bank balance is low, that potential money is coming in over the next quarter release, cash flow quarterly release. So that gives you lots of information and lots of different ways to dissect the data. So you've got 57 companies that are attending NUSA. This saves you a lot of time. You can do your research in about 15 to 30 minutes and get it down to somewhere around, 10 to 20, just depending on what your criteria is. And that way you're focusing on, the priority that you want to, companies that you want to be either talking to if you're attending or watching presentations potentially online. So hopefully that gives you a good overview of how you can use MakCorp by groups. I can also, take the group away and just type in, multiple ASX codes. I might have 3 or 4 or 6 or a number of codes I want to compare, etc. But we will dissect this one more way or filter this one more way. So let's look at, we'll look at something different. Let's look at silver instead of gold this time. So out of the 57 mining companies, ASX mining companies attending NUSA, we will get, there we go. There are 31 out of the 57 that have silver in their project. That gives you an overview of their market data, and here's their project activity. So it gives you a range there who's involved with silver. The type of activity, the dates, project name, market cap, area, region, and an overview of the announcement or the activity. And then just the drilling results, again by best grade, top 20, and best intersect, top 20. Who's got a JORC with silver out of the ones attending. And again, you can compare quarterly cash flow reports. So that just gives you a quick snapshot of how you can dissect and filter on different types of data, whether it's groups, whether it's drilling results, JORC, ASX codes, market caps. It's unlimited as to the ways you can dissect and filter on data. Last thing I want to sort of go through is we have performance reports by percentage gain loss, and they are daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. We're currently looking at the weekly report. So this is the last 12 weeks of all the ASX mining companies and how they've performed over the 12 weeks. We're currently just looking at week ending the 7th, so just the performance for last week. But we can change any of that. We can add it all. We can do it by code, by commodity, by project region or area. We can dissect however we want to. The only filter we have on here is the new price, and we filter on 1 cent or higher. So that's 0.010 or higher. If we add all the high spec stocks at less than a cent, it distorts the average percentage gain loss, as you'll see throughout this report. So here we've got the old price or the week that the stock started at, the new price, percentage gain loss for the week, ERP, which I'll go on, touch on a little bit later through this presentation. We've got total volume, total shares on issue, current market cap as far as close of last Friday. And this is the percentage I use. This is the percentage versus the number of shares. So the percentage volume versus the number of shares on issue. So a lot more accurate when you're comparing companies, whether they've got 1 billion shares or 100 million shares. That's the best way to compare the two. As you can see, very strong performance with Mount Ridley Mines last week, had a percentage gain of 50%, very high volume, and 43% of the company plus was turned over. It had over 25 million in trade value or share value. They're all the commodities that they do, project locations and project stage. There's more data there, but we're time constrained. So now I'm going to go over the main commodities. If we scroll down, all the main commodities are there and their performance for the last 12 weeks, but we'll just highlight on gold. So here we can see the week ending on the first column. It's gold that we're looking at. The average percentage weekly gain loss. So as we can see last week, the average loss was minus 5.18% for any ASX mining company focused on gold. Total volume, average volume, the number of stocks that traded who have a priority gold project. So there was 387 that traded last week. Of that, 82 were in the green, 44 were in the no gain, and 261 in the red. And again, we've got the percentage volume of turnover versus number of shares on issue. So a better way to compare it is using this one. And we've also got it in a visual. As we can see with the last 3 weeks, it's been extremely tough for the ASX mining sector. Prior to that, looking very, very strong, both in volume and average percentage gain. Overall, for the last 12 weeks, it's an average weekly gain of 2.85%. So some really valuable data there, as you'll see throughout here. Again, I can look at change that to any date week ending for the last 12 weeks. but remembering we're just looking at last week here. As we can see with the priority commodities, lots of red last week outside of excluding manganese, which had a very strong week. Everything else was in the red, and this is average percentage gain loss for the week. Then we have, in this group, we have the full ASX resource sector or mining sector as a whole, and then we break it down by project, region, location, area. And again, you know, we can see the ASX mining or resource sectors had a strong 12 weeks, excluding the last 3 weeks. Here we get an overview of the ASX resource sector for the current week, and also project regions. So all in the red, very tough week. I also have my group of stocks in there and how they're performing, whether it be clients, watch list, and investments, etc. ERP software, as I mentioned earlier, that's a very strong data point. ERP software, most mining companies generally use something like MYOB or Xero for accounting to start with, but as the project progresses into studies and further, they look for more sophisticated software to help manage the project, tenements, budgets, costings, purchases, right through to production, and tracking all the costs and stock control once a project's in production. So you're looking at MYOB or Xero, which are sort of cheaper options for accounting. Average ERP price is around 250,000 if they implement ERP, which is a great positive sign that when companies implement ERP, if they're spending $250,000 on software, they believe the project's got a good chance of going to production. Otherwise, they'd be utilising that money on project activity. I work with a mining software solution called Classic. That's probably the most cost-effective ERP solution for mining at somewhere around 20 to 50K, depending on modules and users. But you can also do it monthly cost starting at somewhere around $1,000, $1,000 to sort of $5,000 again, depending on modules and users. So that gives you a good overview of the sector as a whole and by region, including the ERP and the MakCorp group. Next, we have, this is the top 20 by share value traded for the week. BHP is generally number one. As you can see, they've traded over 1.3 billion of their stock last week. But as you can notice, and I'll show you this during the next tab, we can change this at any time by market cap. So if you only want to look at market cap of 50 mil or less, we type in 50 mil, then we see the amount traded of stocks that have a market cap of 50 mil or less and how they're doing. But if I go to the next one, I'll show you how that works. So here we've got the top 20 best performing stocks for last week, along with the percentage gain loss, or in this case, percentage gain, share value traded, total volume. And we can see there's 2 stocks that traded high in volume last week, being MRD and CXO. And we can see CXO also had a strong week with a 16% gain and over $20 million traded in shares with 138 plus million in volume. Then we can look at the 20 bottom or worst performing stocks for the week last week. And most people, including myself, look at this area as potential opportunity for stocks that have got good long-term potential. Yeah, it might be a time to consider, researching to see if it's a good time to buy or not while they've had a retrace. And we can see there's been some very strong volume, again, with a number of stocks there. So again, you can go back and see any announcements for those stocks to see, what happened last week, to see if there was any announcements or not. But so if I want to look at, let's go back to this tab and type in 50 million there. So here I'm looking at market caps of 50 mil or less, and that way we can get a good idea of how that particular part of the market in the ASX resource sector is performing. So, you know, lots of activity or volume with code VBT, and they traded over 4.2 million in share value last week, 18.59% gain, and total volume was 210 million. So you can really dissect this stock, this report however you want to. Now I'm going to skip a couple of things here, and the last thing I wanted to show you was the performance for the last 12 weeks by commodity, and this just gives you a good overview of, you know, which commodities are performing strong over the last 12 weeks. And if any of you are part of the investor groups that I'm in, and there's some large ones, I've mentioned Antinemy will be a strong performing stock for the last sort of 12 months or so. And as you can see, it's one of the best performing commodities over the last 12 weeks, along with germanium, rare earths, gallium, and also platinum/palladium. So hopefully that gives you a good overview of what MakCorp can offer. Subscriptions start at $895 for investors. For mining, ASX mining companies, they start at $995 for a month, and that gives you also a webinar and podcast and access to all the data. And we have an annual subscription as well, and for mining companies it's $5,995, and that gives you 4 podcasts and 2 webinars and full access to the data and marketing activities. And for investors, depending on whether you're retail or sophisticated, they start at $1,495 and range up to $3,995 for an annual subscription. So any questions, or you'd like to have a one-on-one and have a look at MakCorp and dissect it in ways that you'd like to see, please either email me, steve@makcorp.net.au, and that's steve@makcorp, makcorp.net.au, or you can contact me on a Perth number 08 6383 7315. Thanks everyone, and look forward to any feedback and any suggestions you might have on improving our data and systems. And thanks for watching and listening.